Welcome to Nuanced Beauty, because the world is nuanced and we think that's beautiful. Hi guys, welcome back to Nuanced Beauty. This week, I am bringing another interview to you guys. I am sitting down with Alexia. Alexia and I met at a yoga class because I was wearing my podcaster shirt and she asked me about it. So we got to chatting a little bit about the show and she shared that she is a dietitian. Which if you can't tell by now and all of my past episodes, this is a focus area for me because I think there's a lot of nuance here. And it's definitely an area that I have struggled with the tension in my life, but I value it greatly. So that is why I will continue to have folks on the show that work in the health and wellness space. So after this quick connection and getting through our yoga flow class together, we exchanged numbers. And here we are today talking about her profession and passion in this space. Alexia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners?
I would love to. So yes, I am a registered dietitian and also a culinary nutritionist, certified health coach, and certified personal trainer. So I've got you covered, whatever you're working on.
Okay.
And I've struggled with my own health, including surviving a heart attack at 38.
Whoa.
And that prompted my decision to change careers and go into health and nutrition.
Okay.
So now I am I started the Keeping Healthy Simple Club in 2021. I'm the founder and lead dietitian, and we're a virtual practice. And we work with individuals for health and nutrition coaching, of course, but we also work with businesses or groups to deliver worksite wellness or team building events, including the favorite, our virtual cooking classes.
Oh, nice.
So I wanted to share that for obvious reasons, my passion is heart health. And that's where I like to focus with people. And that includes improving blood sugar, cholesterol, and blood pressure with nutrition, while also including habits more around holistic health that people may not usually think of, like stress management, sleep habits, increasing activity, practicing self-care, and building a gratitude practice.
I love that well-rounded approach. And I think it's so pertinent and it's crazy. Like we almost think all of those little variables are so uncontrollable that we just try and pretend they don't exist, like throw the baby out with the bathwater, when in reality, I think they carry a lot of weight to the whole outcome.
They really do. And there's actually even research to support how important these things are for overall health and heart health specifically. So you are right on the money with that thought.
Okay.
But I love what I do. And the reason I love it is because I get to see that light bulb moment when someone finds out that they don't have to be perfect and they don't have to deprive themselves of things they love in order to reach their health goals. And so as you might imagine, this requires a lot of mindset and motivation coaching, which is really my favorite part of it anyway.
Okay.
I do just want to share, one of my clients summed it up perfectly from a client perspective. She said, when I was feeling down about her progress on her health goals, my Keeping Healthy Simple Club coach made me believe in myself again. They helped me to get healthier without any fat shaming, judgment, or being told to give up my favorite foods. So if I had to sum it up, and I will, the practice focuses on helping women find simple and realistic ways to be happy while they get healthy.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great mission.
We usually think it's one or the other, right?
Right. Like we can't get out of that either or dichotomy and get a both and approach.
Yes.
Yeah. So I kind of thought for this interview, we'd break it into the 3 focus areas that you bring up on your website. And hopping into the first, what does self-care as a busy woman look like?
Yeah, it really is just a matter of, for busy women, keeping themselves on top of their to-do list instead of crossing themselves off because all the other things seem more important. So I'm going to give you my biggest tip for how to practice self-care when you are a crazy busy person. And it's just to realize what's truly important to you. So I'm going to ask you, how do you show up when you have to run from task to task to task and you've not taken time to take a moment for yourself?
Oh my goodness. Poorly. I show up poorly and I'm hectic and I'm frazzled And I usually muscle through. Like I'm very good at accomplishing a lot, but it is like just the nagginess, the irritability aspect. It's up there.
Right, exactly. And you're not alone in that. And so that's how we show up for people in our lives when we give from an empty cup, drained, grumpy. As a mother, a partner, a worker, a friend, you're not bringing your best self to any of those interactions. So is anything different for you in those moments when you may have had a chance to find 5 or 10 minutes just to do something simple for self-care? If it's just take a moment, do some breathing, stand outside, but just let yourself decompress for a few minutes.
Yeah, there's like an ability to, for me, it's move at a slower pace, but it's actually, I'm still accomplishing the stuff that needs to get done, but I just feel like I am overall like internally moving slower, but actually like not like I'm moving like a sloth, but I'm actually kind of at an okay speed, I would say, versus hyper speed.
Right. It's not as hectic. It doesn't feel as hectic. Yeah. And so when you take just 5 or 10 minutes for yourself, you show up better for others, right? You show up as a better mother, a better partner, a better worker, a better friend, because you're not draining yourself of all of your energy first. So when I say realize what's truly important, what I mean is it the errands on your to-do list, or is it bringing your best self to the other people in your life? I mean, I think when you think about it that way, it's a pretty easy answer. What's more important?
Yeah.
Right? So to do that, just find little pockets of time, like that 5 or 10 minutes. A 1-minute breathing exercise can even make a huge difference, or a 60-minute yoga class, whatever you want to do.
Perfect.
But yeah, self-care really is at the root of all the other decisions that women make about themselves, their health, and their sanity and wellness.
I like that. And I think I will catch myself thinking about the relational aspect, because I think, and you kind of mentioned it in that answer, is like, how do you show up for everyone else? And so I think if maybe you hear the self-care side and you get a little uncomfortable about this concept, if you think about how are you, like you said, how are you showing up? How are you relationally reacting and interacting with the world around you? Because you're going to have much better relationships and for everyone, and you're going to impact at such a better way, I guess. And so for me, like, yeah, I think it's almost like a multifaceted diamond, right? And so like we're talking in the same arena, like self-care and relationships and how they actually kind of like go together to create like a much better outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's really important in terms of health and wellness and your own, daily life.
Okay, so I can catch myself in an either or mentality when it comes to mental health and physical health. Like I have to do the one or the other, and they can't possibly both go at the same time. We kind of mentioned this. And the thought eating healthy is good for my physical body, but I'm going to feel burnt out planning all of my meals, and I'm going to be feel like I'm trapped in my eating plan. How would you challenge this sort of mindset in a client as a nutritionist?
Yeah, that's a great question. What you're talking about, it's called all or nothing thinking. And it's a very common skewed way of thinking, which technically is called a cognitive distortion. And that statement that either I'm healthy or I'm trapped by my meal plan is really you're either eating healthy, right, all the time, or you're doing nothing because of those reasons. And I love challenging cognitive distortions. So I have 3 questions I use with my clients. So 1, is it true that this is all or nothing? Do you really either have to eat healthy or do nothing? And is there anything in between?
Yeah. Is there anything between obsess and neglect?
Yes.
Possibly a lot.
Maybe. Okay. So that's the first question. But regardless of that answer, true or false, we're going to move on. Now, if it's not true, I encourage you to get rid of the thought because we just found out it's not true. But if it is true, then, or even if not, ask the second question, which is this thought helping me or harming me? So thinking that it's either obsessive or neglect, does thinking that help you or harm you with your goals? Yeah, usually
feels like harm, like kind of seems straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like a pass to not do anything if you can't do it 100%. Right. So it's a nice excuse we've built in for ourselves. So true or not, if it's helping, keep the thought because it's helping. But that's not usually the case. Usually it's not. So the final question is, what is a better thought that you could replace it with? And then you have those conversations and beat that, faulty thought down with a better thought all the time. So let's think of something, if you can, between obsessing and neglecting your eating. What could you do? One small, simple thing in the middle.
I'm thinking, I'm reading a book right now called The Gap and the Gain. And it's all about measuring from reality and what you've accomplished, which would put you in the gain mentality, versus trying to measure this future outcome. Like you're trying to measure not necessarily an unrealistic, but you're trying to measure toward a goal, and you need goals, but you shouldn't be measuring that part because that part isn't the measurable part. So you need to measure the reality of where you've come from. So like with that thought, it's like, yeah, I got up this morning and I had a slice of sourdough with 2 eggs, and that was a good breakfast. And now, we're running around like we went to the beach. So our lunch was a little more, it was just quesadillas. And quesadillas are like not necessarily well-rounded. I didn't get a heavy dose of protein.
But they are delicious.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad. So that's the thing. It wasn't bad.
Right.
I actually nourished my body, and it wasn't a terrible decision.
Yeah. And when people tell me like they're eating bad or wrong, I'm like, is your body nourished or are you malnourished? You really can't eat incorrectly. Right. So
you're fueling your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always getting nutrition. Some other things like maybe having a healthy breakfast would be the first thing you could do. So when it comes up that I either have to do it perfectly or not do it at all, you can say, no, I realized that wasn't true. What I can do today is eat a healthy breakfast. And then you just focus on that. Just finding that small, simple thing that you can implement is how I kind of break through those people who are like, big, I can't do it. Yeah.
The behemoth mindset.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I imagine you likely hear this phrase often. So I'm curious how you would respond if someone says, I don't have time to eat healthy.
Right? So many people say that.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I want you to change the language because the language we use is so important. So go from eating healthy, which again pulls in that perfect menu, to just eating healthier. So when you say, I don't have time to eat healthier, well, I think you can. I think anyone can. And you're spending time to get food, right? You're either waiting for the Uber driver, you're going somewhere to pick something out that's convenient, or you're cooking at home. So there's always time involved in food. But if people really truly feel they don't have the time, and a lot of women are burning the candle at both ends, so I understand and I hear that, start small. So I'd encourage them to make a list of all the nutrition changes they think it's worthwhile for them to implement.
Just pick one?
Yeah. And pick the easiest one.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Even better. Yeah.
Yeah. And just do that and nothing else for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
When you feel ready, just choose the next easiest one. And that way, those small steps over time
are going to
make it more of a habit.
Yeah.
And, in 3 months, you've probably changed 8 things. Now you're on a roll.
Yeah. And then if you're like kind of going back to that like gap and gain mindset, if you're in the gain mindset, like look at all these things I've implemented.
Yes.
It's a positive way to think versus that massive hill to climb,
Yeah. And I just want to share just one thing that one of my clients said. And she's a busy mom and working. So she said that the coaching helped her figure out how to prioritize her health in a way that was not overwhelming and that fit into her day-to-day life as a working mom. And she went from no activity at all, and she loves being active, to averaging 30 minutes a day and learned to work on nutrition without succumbing to the latest fad. So even in that hectic lifestyle, she was able to find changes. And now she completed her coaching with me, but we're still working together on a coaching membership a couple times a month.
Oh, cool.
Just to navigate those challenges that always come up and throw us back off track, and to keep progressing without boredom, because that usually throws people off track.
Okay. So how does our nutrition play a role in developing heart disease? Or I guess maybe, is it the main contributor?
It's a big one.
Okay.
It's a big one. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of big ones. Some we can change, some we can't. But specifically for nutrition, it can have an impact on your heart disease risk and on managing heart disease if you already have it. So keeping it simple. When you eat a lot of added sugars in food, it can increase your blood sugar and your triglycerides, which increases your risk for heart disease. When you eat a lot of salt or sodium, that can increase your blood pressure, which is a risk factor. And when you eat a lot of saturated fats, it can increase the LDL or bad cholesterol and lead to plaque buildup in the arteries. So those are the foods that negatively impact heart health. So reducing those and swapping them out for other foods would be beneficial.
So what does it look like to eat a heart healthy diet?
Right. So instead of focusing on all those things I just listed that you shouldn't eat, think about adding in heart healthy foods that fills up your plate in a sense and crowds out the room for the less healthy foods. So you can increase your HDL or the good cholesterol by adding foods with monounsaturated fats like delicious avocado, nuts, and olives, as well as using oils made from these foods. Increasing fiber, which is found in vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. That can help manage blood sugar because it slows down your digestion.
Your body's, processing the food.
Yeah, and then it can also help with lowering LDL cholesterol. I also encourage people to try a few vegetarian meals or seafood meals a week just to decrease meat, which is fairly high in saturated fat. But if this is like a non-starter for you, and a lot of people believe that, then just try eating smaller portions of meat instead. You can eat heart healthy and still eat meat. It's possible.
Yeah.
But not the way the typical American
the standard
eats
American
meat.
diet. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And about cholesterol, I have just one last story I'd love to share. One of my clients came to me, and it was the first time in her life she'd ever gotten high cholesterol results at the doctor. And she's like, I just want to work on it for a month and see what I can do. So I do lab tests with my clients. We did a lab test. We had her doctor's results, and we did one at the end of her month. And her total cholesterol and LDL went from too high to within normal limits.
Oh,
I mean, in a month.
that's like pretty quick.
Yeah, I was even really surprised by how quickly she brought it down. But to be fair, she was focused and she was really ready to change because she was scared of those results.
Yeah. Okay, next question. With an abundance of information at our fingertips, and there are so many diet options out there, has it become more challenging to offer guidance as a registered dietitian? How do you navigate this tension?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk out there, isn't there, about dietitians versus nutritionists versus health coaches, plans and all these things. And, you know, I did find it frustrating when I was a newer dietitian, but then I reached a point where I just decided to choose joy over trying to be right and like correct and inform every time I came across people like this. So I just kind of let go of that tension. And it's been fine.
I'm wondering if maybe do you feel like you come across more folks just like this would be like in casual settings versus like necessarily someone who's actually coming to you for medical. Do you know what I mean? The setting, like coming to you from a place of you're an authority figure, speak into my life because you have wisdom and experience versus like, oh, you're a registered dietitian. Well, I heard blah, 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 blah.
Right. You have to follow the food guide pyramid, which we haven't had for decades.
Oh, yeah. That's a rough one.
No, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I hesitate to tell people what I do because what inevitably happens is like, I'm a dietitian. And they're like, really? Let me tell you about how I eat. And they're either looking for like advice and guidance, but more often I feel like people are just looking for confirmation that they're eating well.
Okay.
So I do get I hear a lot of very interesting things that people have been told about nutrition, some accurate, some not so much.
Not so great. Okay.
Yeah. And there is a lot of bad information out there. And there's a lot of, I'm doing air quotes here for the listeners, coaches out there who just aren't well trained. I just did a dive to see what I could find for health coaching certification. I found one that for just $99 and anywhere from 14 to 50 hours of study time and no degree at all, you could become a health coach.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
like
not
the
a lot
level
of time
of
to learn.
experience. Yeah. And it's hard because I do have some strong feelings about the idea of gatekeeping. If you've heard this idea that like somebody needs a 4-year degree, they need a master's degree, they need a doctorate, but like you have to be your own advocate. But there's a fine line. Like there really is. It's like hard to dance.
And there are people out there who may have just done that degree, but also have a lot of knowledge, experience working with people.
Like
so I'm not
more background.
Not at all trying to discredit. I always tell people buyer beware. Like ask the questions. You're a health coach. What's your certification? What did it involve?
Who have been your clients? Like can I get like some referrals so I understand the level of experience and what you've worked in? Yeah.
That
makes sense.
And just to compare that as a registered dietitian, and there's also a certified nutrition specialist by another organization that's very legit. Lots of education and practice hours. Both that certification and dietitians can get licensed by the state. So dietitians don't hold a monopoly in Florida, at least, on being able to work with people on nutrition. There's an alternate pathway. But these programs usually require at least a bachelor's in health or nutrition. They just implemented master's requirement for dietitians and 1,200 hours of actual internship experience. So that's going into the hospitals, into the food service kitchens, into the community, to the WIC and SNAP
And I imagine there's continuing education units, right? Is that in there too?
75 hours a year, every 2 years. No, I'm messing it up. Licensure is 30 hours every 2 years. Registered dietitian is 75 every 5 years, just to keep us confused.
Just to keep you moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And if I may, if someone comes to me and they got advice from someone who may not have as much education or experience, they often come to me after working with these people and finding it too hard. They are usually encouraging people to follow plans perfectly. And they're really not sustainable lifetime plans for the most part, in my experience. So I just tell people like, hey, try it out. It might work for you, but if it's not, I'm still here. Right. So go and experiment. And then I'll be here when you want to try something different and a little more forgiving and gentle. And
potentially sustainable. Cause I imagine there's like, that's what's hard is, the amount of diet options out there. I think it's actually very good to experiment with your body and to actually be intentional and aware of how your body works. Like, I think that there's also like a lot of really cool, testing, right? Like you could do food sensitivity testing right now. There are continuous glucose monitors. So like we have this general knowledge of like, oh, well, white rice should impact your body like this, and potatoes should impact your glucose levels like this. Right. But those sort of kind of tests and labs that are kind of like cool. You could get that individual look at your own body, right? Like, absolutely. Because for me, food sensitivity testing, I did, this was probably 5 to 7 years, and I think your sensitivities can change, but lemon, I had a really high with lemon, like a really high level of inflammatory markers, which is a random one.
Yes.
Because a lot of folks recommend like a glass of water with lemon in the morning to help with your digestion. And so in my case, it's like, oh, maybe that's not as wise.
Right.
But it's a random, it's super random. So it's cool that we can kind of get a little bit of an individual application. But also there are general guidelines that can really apply to everyone. And I mean, you mentioned like limiting processed foods, sugars, and seed oils. Like those are your big three kind of almost no-brainers, but really hard to do. And that's, I think, another like red flag to look for. If you ask someone for advice and they just start telling you what to do, because they can't possibly know what's right for you until they've asked a couple of questions. So someone who just wants to start throwing advice at you is probably not the best fit. But there's a lot of research coming out now with using the continuous glucose monitors and those sensitivity tests that really can help people get a picture,
understand how their body, not what like the general population's body does, but what theirs does specifically. And I remember one time, this is when I was working for another company, someone told me that for some reason pineapple didn't spike their blood sugar like other fruits.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, well, I don't understand why.
Eat all the pineapple.
But if that's your experience, let's run with it, right? So
that's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for those inputs there. As we are kind of winding down, I wanted to note that I really love the third point on your website. Gratitude changes everything. In the spirit of nuanced beauty and how I try and curate or establish these episodes, there's that time where we explore a lot of the nuance, which I feel like is what we've kind of been doing in the above part. And now we get to kind of look into finding the beauty, which can serve ourselves well. And I feel like you eloquently communicate it as looking for gratitude.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, how has a posture of gratitude impacted your life?
So I want to share a personal story on this one. And it really took me by surprise. So in February of 2020, I had shoulder repair surgery. And I think we can all remember what happened in March 2020 when the world kind of shut down.
Yeah.
So I was in pain. I had just had surgery, and the world shuts down, and there's this level of fear about what can we do, what can't we do? Am I going to get COVID and die? Because it was pretty dire in the beginning before treatments were understood. But I also had this additional fear of going to physical therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't not rehab a shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm literally going to be standing underneath someone's face, right? And I'm just envisioning all these droplets.
I'm just going to inhale all these droplets.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fear about that.
Oh, goodness.
And then with the pandemic, add on a couple of weeks, and I started getting depressed just because of the isolation and lack of, connection. So when I was in this really like fearful, isolated, painful place, I was like really at a low point for me. And it just popped into my head, gratitude. And the reason it did is because I was part of a coaching program myself as a client a few years before, where gratitude was a big part of that coaching program. And I just said to myself, you need to come up with 3 things you're grateful for. And so I did. And I did what everyone does, right? I posted it on social media because that's what we do. And I did that for 3 days. I just came on social and said, today I'm grateful for these 3 things. And it took me exactly 3 days before I started feeling better.
Oh, okay.
So just, that simple practice really pulled me out of an uncomfortable
spiral,
unpleasant,
maybe.
Yeah, spiral for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, gratitude doesn't cure those things at all, but it can be something helpful people could try if they find themselves in that situation.
Can you share how to practically lean into gratitude in our lives, kind of in a more general sense, how people could apply that?
Yeah. Would you be surprised if I said keep it simple?
Yeah, keep
right?
it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple. Yep. Again, perfection is never required. So maybe just start small by setting an alarm on your phone with a reminder to find one thing you're grateful for. Just once a day. Have it go off maybe in the point of the day where you're the most frazzled or, upset usually, and just find something to be grateful for. And from that just start doing it more often, or start a gratitude notebook or like a jar where you write your gratitude on slips of paper and collect them.
Put it in a jar.
Yeah.
That sounds clever. Yeah.
I love this way to practice gratitude, because there are days when it's really hard to find something to be grateful for. And now you've got this notebook or jar filled with notes of all the things you've been grateful for before. And so it can really help in those moments when you're trying to find gratitude and can't.
I like that. It also kind of reminds me of I don't know if I got this from a podcast, but I feel like I did. One of the folks that I listened to early on, she would ask the question, what are you most excited about right now?
Oh.
And so it's if you were to engage in a conversation to draw someone's attention. So you're almost invoking gratitude in another person, not necessarily like making them a project,
Right.
But kind of in the general sense of let's talk about something we're excited about.
Yeah. And it does take a little bit of that like fluffy, right? Gratitude is like, oh, that's kind of like fluffy stuff.
A catchphrase.
Excitement, we get that. So that's a beautiful question.
Okay. So the next question, we love books. We love book recommendations. I used to be much more punctual and routine about ensuring I had a book rec in every episode. And now it's hit and miss. But I truly think that there are so many amazing books out there that capture the essence of nuance and beauty, because you're taking a topic, you're diving much deeper than surface level. So you're getting into the nitty gritty. And somebody wrote it, so they must have felt passionately and purposeful to put it down to paper, right? So Love books. With that said, is there a book that you have in mind for today's topic?
Absolutely. And it falls right into these lines of perfection and kindness and being gentle. The book is Body Kindness.
Okay.
And it's written by another dietitian. Her name is Rebecca Scritchfield.
Okay.
So it's really, and you talked a moment ago about like spiraling down. She actually has what she calls spiraling up and how to set up those spirals up in your life. But it's just all about being kind to yourself and your body.
That sounds lovely. Well, I will ensure we get that in the show notes. Alexia, thank you so much for joining me today. How can people connect with you for further services or resources?
Yeah, I would love to connect with people and just hear their stories. And so the website is keepinghealthysimpleclub.com. I know it's long. I didn't think about it when I created it. And right now I do have a freebie up there, 6 surprisingly simple things you can do to improve your health in less than 5 minutes a day.
Okay.
So you do have to sign up for the newsletter. I know people don't like that, but you're also going to get our recipe of the month if you stay on the newsletter.
Okay.
And get access to a library of our recipes of the month. And I promise my feelings will not be hurt if you unsubscribe after you grab the goodies. So feel free to hop on, get your stuff, hop off.
And just a quick one on there. If you subscribe to the newsletter, how often do you send out? Is it a monthly or is it a weekly or?
Yeah, it's been monthly with just the recipes, but I'm getting ready to do some short videos, educational videos on different topics around health and kindness, body kindness. So it may go up to twice a month.
Okay, but you promise not to blast me every day. Check.
Check. Even my welcome series is 1 email, not 7.
Okay, awesome.
Because I can't stand that. So, and finally, if anyone does want to talk about coaching, go to keepinghealthysimpleclub.com/strategy session, and you can sign up for a 30-minute, no cost, no obligation call with me. Share your health goals and challenges and learn a little more about the coaching process to see if I might be a good fit for you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
It's been great fun.
Thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and in the spirit of nuance, I hope you found something that you could agree with and you could disagree with, and still choose to lean in. Give us a follow, rating, and review, and consider sharing this episode with a friend to continue the dialogue and help us grow. Until next time.